Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Jasper Dent. I'm the events coordinator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. I've just got a couple quick notes before we begin. First of all, this event is being live streamed, so please be mindful of the web camera up at the front to your right here. Just try not to block it or cross in front of it. And also, I'd like to remind you all to silence or turn off your phones. There's always one person who forgets, and it's very awkward. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce your host for the evening. Not me, thankfully. We've got ALICE KUIPERS hosting tonight. ALICE is a best-selling, award-winning author published in 36 countries, with 13 books for young readers out in the world and one more on the way. Spark on writing for young readers. She coaches at the Novelry, is a successful ghost, and I believe the first ghost that we've had host an event here. And she shares little life lists on Substack. Everyone, please give ALICE a very warm welcome.
I always love to say thank you to all of you as I begin an evening like this, because it's wonderful to see so many readers and supporters on such a extraordinary evening. As we gather here today, we respectfully acknowledge that this event is hosted on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis, and that all the people here, all of us, are beneficiaries of this treaty. To me, what that means is I try to take time every day to pay attention to the stories that are here and are present in the land around me, sometimes with 4 children who have all been born in this land. Life can get busy, but I find if I pause and pay attention that this land and the gift of it is always there for me and for all of us. And so I do feel very grateful. While there are many joining us virtually, we also need to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. I do this, and we all do this, to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relations between nations and improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures, because I believe that enhances all of our experiences when we pay attention, when we listen, and when we learn from the stories that have been here for a very long time. I would like to invite now Elder Mary Lee from Pelican Lake First Nation for our opening prayer.
Thank you very much for the welcome and the introduction. Thank you, Nanaskomun. I've been offered tobacco. This is one of the things we do, okay? Is offer to Mother Earth things we walk on her every day. So we say thank you by offering tobacco for her launch on her book. It's not just a book, it's many sharing times, and I'm sure walking Mother Earth, and we're known for stories. That's how we survived. That's how we passed on in information and teachings through the years. So I'm very grateful to be here to share this with her, to encourage her. This is not it, and there are always lots more stories to be told. So I say a prayer for her today, for her knowledge, her stories, and many more to come. So I say my prayer in my language, and it's never to disrespect people that don't understand. We all say thank you for her courage to share her stories from her heart, okay? From her knowledge as she walks the land and she shares with other people. It takes courage to do that. Thank you again, and help me say thank you to her knowledge and her work she's sharing with us this evening. So we say thank you. Ananasko mo kami na skagis ka minapia ko sa pagtaman mo ako makinig wisdom ko. Tuhting di kami o si Pix kung utiin ka, tumiupigin ang so. Danas kung minita pero no ako maginita. Mas na hindi ito isko, mo na panaging na kami Pix kung tayo dito. Danas kung utang kiksiwan sumo ang aktiyo. Ano kung nanatayo, aktiyo sa sawimi ang aktiyo. Lagi uhiya ako ng pinauso, ako ng so, danas ko muna ng skano, kiksiwan so, danas ko muna. Ang tinisiwan lang, kaya ako Pix kung sa apartamo ng kakyo, nanas ko mo, I say thank you to, we believe in the grandmother's spirit of Aboriginal people. And I share with you today because we have children. We were blessed to bring life and to honor life. And because she has children, she's also have many gifts to share. So I say thank you to the grandmothers that went before us, that taught us, that teaching. So thank you so much. I think.
Thank you, Mary Lee, for starting us off in a good way. It's always important, I think, when we say our thank yous and our prayers to also remember just how important it is to have an author right here in the room launching her first book. And so I love that we're starting this off so well because I feel that every book is an adventure. And here in Saskatoon, this book is going to reach people all over this land. And I am thrilled that we have such a talented and brilliant author right here amongst us. So for me, when I encountered Mortified, which is the book, which is so beautiful right here, what I noticed right away was not only that it's very funny, laugh out loud, funny, and very compelling and artfully constructed with a really strong main character. There are two other things that really spoke to me, and I think that I want to hint at for you as readers. Firstly, the friendship that develops between the two girls in the story is really crucial, I think, to how we navigate those early years. And I think what has been done so well by Kristy in this book is created a space for that friendship to blossom in all the fun and all the drama. And what that also leads to is friendship with a boy, which has a beautiful cultural richness and heart, and is a way for her to navigate the complexity, Belinda, our main character, of the disasters that keep falling upon her. The other thing I know as a writer is that I have someone called Mean Girl who sits on my shoulder. And Mean Girl says things like, well, why would anyone want to read this? Or why should I share this story? Or this is never going to work, it sucks. And we have some writers in the room, and I know they recognize this. And what I see here is a kid who has to learn too with lying Brian, who you will find in the book when you get there, and with her friends, how to turn that voice down. And I feel that here in Saskatoon tonight, we get to celebrate a writer who has turned that voice down, shared her experience in this experience, which is nothing to do with her, but also probably a bit to do with her, because it always is when we're writers, turn that voice down and expressed herself in a way that I think you're going to have fun with. I invite you, when you get your copy, to do two things for Kristy. I want you to share this story, if you love it, with someone else, because for a new author starting in this journey, having people talking about your book and sharing it is really important. So share it where you talk about books online, but also gift it too. Give it to someone you love and say, I love this book. You will love it too. So now it's time for me to introduce Kristy, and this is her bio telling you about her in case you don't know her yet. She is a communications professional by day and a writer by night. She loves books of all kinds and has led a program to help Santa bring books to kids in remote Indigenous communities each Christmas since 2018. She's also a volunteer board member with Foundations, a local nonprofit dedicated to improving literacy in Saskatchewan for kids and for adults. They've been long established here. They used to be called Read Saskatoon, and Kristy works hard to help other people come to reading and stories in the way that she loves them too. Kristy is a member of Whitefish Lake First Nation, number 128, is that how I say that? Who lives near Saskatoon with her husband and their two sons, Jake and Josh, who I just had the pleasure to meet this evening. Mortified is her debut novel, but there is another one. Here she is.
Tansei, Atlantate. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to the official launch of my first book, Mortified. So tonight I'll give a little speech. I'll do a reading. We'll do a bit of a Q&A. There'll be a draw and then a signing. Okay. So before I start though, my kids have a bet going on to see if I make it through tonight without doing something embarrassing. I hope not, but knowing me, they're probably going to win that one. So we'll see. I'd like to thank Elder Mary Lee for coming today and starting us off right. Every big event I've attended for many years now has started off with an opening prayer by an elder, and this is a pretty big event for me. So hi, thank you. And of course, let's acknowledge our host, Alice. Where is she? There she is. Who has been so generous with her time and so helpful to an excited but nervous newbie author. So thank you so much. And to all the young readers, to everyone here today, and everyone who is watching online, thank you for coming. It means so very much that you've chosen to spend your time with me as we celebrate the launch of my first published book. I've dreamed about publishing a book since I was a little kid. After a lot of reading and a ton of hard work, I got there. It took a little time, just about 40 years or so. It took me a long time because for a long time I didn't try. I didn't feel confident that I could do it. I didn't think I was a good enough writer. I wasn't sure I could face all the rejection you need to face to get here. And I really wasn't sure I could give speeches like this. I'm shaking right now. So. Yeah. But I did get there. And I got there because of the many people in my life who have supported me. And I'd like to take a moment and give them the thanks they deserve. So I'm so lucky to have such a supportive family. My mom, my dad and his partner Angie, Bob and Sylvia, Jesse, Sandy, Lindsay, Paige, Aubrey, Jason and Kim, Henry and Will, thank you. A huge thank you to Rael McGregor, whose illustrations brought this book to beautiful life in a way that I could never do. My agent, Olga Filina, of the Five Otter Literary Agency in Toronto, over there in Cameraland, who took a chance on me. And my brilliant editor, Yash Kasanath-Kurthi, thank you. The wonderful team members at HarperCollins whose work contributed to this book, Jennifer Lambert, Alan Jones, Angela Hill, Natalie Meditsky, Janice Weaver, Leslie Fraser, Marisol Folks, and Kai Wong. There's a lot of people who work behind the scenes to get this to where it is. My best friend, Jerry, and my dear friends, Marit, Carrie, and Pam. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last 30 years and for always being awesome. To my writing teacher, Brian Henry, out there in Cameraland, and the regulars at the Friday morning writing group that I'm a part of. These folks are brilliant writers that helped make my book better, and I feel like they're writers to watch for, so I'll say their names now. Cynthia Stacy, Sarah Groundwater Law, Christine Michaud, Penny Thompson, Lori Eddy, Margaret Rees, Sheila Eastman, Roger Moore, Anne Gray, Deidre Domigan, Dana Webster, and Helen Patterson. To all my work friends and colleagues, some of who are here now, who supported my desire to amplify Indigenous authors and give the gift of reading to kids in remote communities each Christmas, thank you. To Donna McDonald, Priscilla St. John, and the Saskatchewan Indigenous Cultural Centre for their help getting the cultural elements right in the book. To the many writers in the writing community, thank you for your camaraderie, your encouragement, and your commitment to creating stories that resonate with young hearts and minds. And of course, my wonderful husband, Kevin Abig. He never doubted me. He deserves a special acknowledgement because he took on a lot of extra duties so that I could have time to write. And he also took one of my unpublished books when I was still struggling with this, designed a cover and surprised me on Christmas with 20 beautiful printed copies, making me feel like a real author. Still the best Christmas present ever, I have to say. He's my partner in everything, and I wouldn't be here tonight without him, so thank you. And finally, I'd like to give a special shout out to my sons, Jake and Josh, who accidentally gave me the idea for the book. They were laughing at all my embarrassing moments stories. And one day they said, you know, Mom, it's like you're cursed or something. And boom, I was like, that might be a great idea for a book. I've had many of these embarrassing moment stories, and many of the embarrassing moments in this book are based on things that actually happened to me. The scary part is I have lots more that aren't even in here. I have written another book. But my kid's favorite story is the time I got sprayed by a skunk when I was in 8th grade. That's why I have my friend here. My whole family has been laughing about that story for 30 years. I had a friend with me at the time who actually came tonight. And it's funny because we hadn't seen each other in like decades, but we went to the high school reunion and the first thing she said to her partner was, that's the one, the skunk. And they were like, wow. And it really felt weird to be famous for something like that, but yeah, thanks for coming. My kids think I'm crazy for sharing my embarrassing moments with the world, and maybe they're right about that. But literally everyone on the planet has an embarrassing moment. I dare say, who all has had one in this room? Right? I wanted kids to know you aren't alone. It happens to absolutely everyone. And someday you really will be able to laugh about it, even if you lose all your hair, eat dog food, or get sprayed by a skunk. So in closing, I want to leave you with a simple message. Never stop dreaming, never stop trying, and never stop believing in the power of stories. Whether you're a young reader embarking on a new adventure or an adult revisiting the magic of childhood, I hope my book brings you laughter and joy and a few hours of entertainment on a rainy afternoon. So you'll be happy to know that's the end of the official speech part. Now what I'll do is do a little bit of reading from Mortified. So in honor of my kids, I will read chapter 20, which is a fictionalized version of the skunk story they love so much that started this journey. So chapter 20 is called, That's Not My Dog. So this is the part where I go home, triumphant and confident, and that breaks the spell, right? No, the spell wasn't done with me yet. After all my clothes had finished drying, I got dressed and thanked Sally and her mom. I turned down a ride home because I figured it was still nice enough to walk and I wanted to enjoy the night air. Other than the distant scent of a skunk, the air smelled clear and fresh. It was still warm and the walk didn't take long. The sky was black already and there were no clouds, so the stars were bright and easy to see. I spotted the Big Dipper and the North Star. Those were about the only constellations I knew. I was in a pretty good mood. There's something about coming to a decision that makes you feel at peace. The thought of auditioning for the play still terrified me, and I was convinced there would be some horrible, embarrassing moment right in the middle of it. There was also no real chance of me actually getting a part with all that happening, but I was going to give it a try anyway. The streetlight outside my house burnt out just as I walked towards it. Great. Now it's hard to see where I was going. The light next to our neighbor's house had been out for months. Our whole street would probably plunge into darkness before anyone bothered to replace the bulbs. Welcome to small town Saskatchewan, where everything moves at the speed of frozen snails. I'm moving to a big warm city when I'm done school, I muttered out loud. The dark street was kind of creepy. As if on cue, the wind picked up and made a sound straight out of a Halloween special. Then I heard the sound of a branch breaking. This is ridiculous. I was louder than I meant to be, and my own voice echoing in the empty street made me jump. What was wrong with me? Why was I so on edge? It was just our house minus some lights, no different than in the daytime. I spotted my little dog Dusty near the empty flower beds. The sight of my little dog gave me a boost and swept all my fear aside. Dusty couldn't have protected me from an angry cat, let alone a ghost, but I was totally comforted anyway. What are you doing outside, Dusty? Strangely, he didn't respond to my voice. Normally, he would run right for me, eager to jump up and give me smelly dog kisses. But instead, he ran away from me, straight into the bushes along our driveway. Dusty, come back! It was hard to see, but I went after him. Sometimes Dusty got the idea that he was a big, tough dog, and I didn't want him to run away and test that theory against an actual big, tough dog. Dusty, where are you? I walked towards the bushes where I could hear a rustling sound. The evening was getting cold and I shivered. That smelly skunk smell from earlier was getting stronger. Now I had to get Dusty. If there was a skunk around, I didn't want him getting sprayed. Dusty! I spotted him holed up in the thickest part of the bushes. It was dark there and hard to see, so I crouched down and reached my hands out, feeling around. Dusty, you silly little thing. Why are you running away from me? Oh no, had he already been skunked? It had happened before and he'd been so ashamed he hid in the basement for a week. Just then I heard a sound from inside the house. Arf, arf, arf. Dusty? Wait, what? I was about to grab Dusty, but Dusty was in the house. So if Dusty was in the house, then what was I? And that was when I got sprayed. So that actually happened. I thought the skunk was a puppy. It was not a puppy. And the funny part is the first editor that read this told me, that's not realistic. You got to take it out. And I'm like, well, actually, that really did happen. So I was allowed to leave it in. So thank you very much. Hi, Marcy Cho. Thank you. Little stagecraft happening.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you so much for that. I still find it funny. Sounds like your kids do as well. So I think you answered the first question in the list that you gave me. So Kristy's been very prepared and has all the questions organized and we have everything ready. But I'd like to invite all of you as well. If you have questions too, do raise your hand at any point. It's nice for a writer to talk with her readers, which is you guys, and to answer any questions. So do put your hand up at any point and we'll pause and reach out to you. And you can ask anything, I think, about embarrassing moments or what it's like to write a book or what the next one might be about. Or what else she's working on. So there's lots of things you could maybe ask if you want to.
Just be nice.
So why don't you tell me, now that we know that some of these are your embarrassing moments, what has been your most embarrassing moment? Is it the skunk story?
The skunk is right up there, probably. I mean, I know my mom said they didn't want to let us into the house when this happened. And there was two of us in the real life when this happened. It was about 2 a.m, actually. And we wanted to go in the house, but my mom didn't want to let us in because we stank so bad. And we tried all kinds of internet ways to get rid of the skunk smell, but it just didn't seem to want to come off. And I swear I smelled like skunk for a week.
I know, I like that in the book, they're still moving away. They're like,
Yeah.
no, I can still smell it. So when you were writing this, you talk a little bit about the editor. Maybe you could tell people here what that's like, that process. You submit the manuscript, you send it out to the world, and then the editor says things like, no, that's not realistic. No such thing as skunks doing that to children.
Yeah, no, so you write a first draft first, and I actually had an editor before I even submitted it to the agent. So that editor was the one that said you have to take the skunk story out, and convinced him to keep it in. But once I sent it to the agent and we got a publisher, then there was the publisher has a series of editors that go through the story as well. And I think we went through 8 drafts before we got to the final. So it was a lot of work, but a lot of people put a lot of effort into it and they all made it better. And I greatly appreciate their work on that.
And so this is the first one, and now there's a second one too with the same characters. So did you find the second one it was a little clearer for you because you built the world, or like how was that for you?
It was easier with the world building. In the second one, some of the same characters come in, but it focuses on some new ones. So I'll be excited to introduce Tristan to the world in about a year and a half from now.
And you'll have the same illustrator as well. I don't know if you've been able to see, some of you have copies. There's beautiful illustrations at the beginning of every chapter, and it's done like a graphic novel. And so it's a really vivid, interesting way. So can you talk a bit about what that was like for you?
Yeah, so I can draw stickmen pretty good, and that's about it. And so HarperCollins helped find an illustrator, Métis artist named Rael McGregor, whose work absolutely brought this to beautiful life. Just absolutely nailed it. And it was HarperCollins, my editor's idea, I believe, to have a graphic novel chapter page at the start of each chapter, which I think is pretty unique and cool. And yeah, and I love the illustrations. They're wonderful.
Well, and what's nice is it gives you a little bit of a hint of what's coming, because it's taken from the text, but it's not taken necessarily like all from the very first lines, which you've seen like maybe a little bit. So it's actually really innovative in terms of how it's designed. So it works beautiful. Like the book design must have been very challenging at their end as well.
Yeah. And it was like Rael would go through the book and pitched, this would make a good scene to draw and this would make a good scene to draw. And I think we went with yes with all their suggestions on that. So, yeah.
So when you're starting with an idea like this, your sons say, maybe you're cursed.
You're cursed at something, Mom.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what that process was like too? So you come up with that idea and then what happens next?
Well, I've written 4 books now. So that one was the 3rd one that I wrote. So I wasn't really good yet at taking an idea to fruition. But what I did with that was, just sort of played with the idea for a long time. And first I wrote down like all my embarrassing moments. Then I started talking to people I knew going, okay, what are your embarrassing moments? And I borrowed a few from some others as well as my own. And but honestly, mine are worse than most people's, which is kind of sad. Yeah, so then I take a lot of time and sketch out an outline and figure out the story before I actually start writing, and then that lets me write in little bits and pieces here and there while I'm working and taking care of kids and volunteering and doing all the things. So yeah, that's.
And so if someone here was thinking about writing their own book, you would recommend that version of an outline? Like, what do you think about when you're outlining a book?
Well, I think about sort of the character's journey, where they have to start and where they need to get to, and then all the ways where they have to start off, and then all the things they have to go through to get there. And I do highly recommend doing outlining. I tried without it for a long time, and that's why I had about 50 or 60 different starts of books and not finishes. But once I started learning little bit more about structure, that's when I started actually finishing books. So that would be my first piece of advice, is learn structure and spend a lot of time on that before you start writing.
And where did you learn it? With your writing group on a Friday, or?
Yeah, I learned it with my writing group, and also, just reading various books about it. Save the Cat was one that the title sticks out in my head always, but there's a number of books on structure that are good, and yeah. So
because it is very well structured, it's very noticeable how well the journey, like Belinda's journey, is very, very clear. The trajectory is clear, but you also put plenty hurdles in the way. I mean, what you want to do with the character is kind of throw rocks at them, and what happens here is, ants and skunks and hair issues and fires, and it's just really a lot of challenges for Belinda to kind of navigate, to find her voice. And I think that's really what this book feels like to me it's about. Is that what you would say too?
That it's about
finding your voice, like finding who you are and being brave.
Yeah, it's funny, when I wrote it, I didn't realize it till after I read it later, but I laughed because it was almost like me telling myself, like, this character really wants to be an actress, and then but she's too shy to ever try out. So she just sort of watches from the sidelines all the time, wishing. And her journey through the book, she gets there. But it was almost like me telling myself, like, you got to try, you got to get out there and try and do the things that make you uncomfortable and afraid, and like speeches. And and that's really, I think, what it's mostly about.
Yeah, I think it's a great book for kids. It's really fun for grown-ups. It's really fun maybe for grown-ups and kids to read together as well. Do any of you have any questions? Because I feel like there's going to be quite a long signing, and I want to make sure you get time before you have to rush off and do the various other things in your life. So does anyone have anything they would like to ask? Here we go. We have a question just over here. Hi.
Kids growing up, did you start writing when you were in grade school or high school?
We'll just repeat the question quick so
Yes.
people can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the question was, did I start writing when I was a kid? And yes, actually, right from when I was very young. My dad used to bring home these notebooks and stuff from work, and sometimes it was day planners or whatever that he was given, and he would give them to me, and I would just fill them with stories. And I would fill them as quickly as he could give them to me. So yeah, I did a lot of writing. Always have.
I think we had another question over here somewhere. Someone had their hand up. Yeah, hi.
From the first draft that you wrote and then sent to the editor to now, how long did that take?
So it took me about, so how long did it take from the first draft till now, is the question. And so I'll just describe my timeline. I took about 3 months figuring out the outline. And then I would say another about 3-4 months to write it. And then I kind of leave it sit for a bit because you just don't see your own mistakes if you look at it too quickly. And then I spent another about probably 6 months working on it myself with my writing group, with an editor. And then I sent it to agents, and that took a while. And then once we had it with a publisher, I believe we signed in February of last year. And so it's a book about 1 year and 3 months later. Yeah.
Easy, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we have a question here at the front.
Okay, so from your first draft to the published book, how different would you say it is from where you started to where you ended up, given the different edits and relooks and other people looking at it and whatnot?
Yeah, so the question is, how different is the final versus the first draft? And I would say the final is a more polished version. There were certain plot points that changed based on people's input, but for the most part, it's pretty similar.
Nice.
Yeah, the actual story bones was very, very much left intact.
Yeah, that's interesting from the structural point of view. Okay, I'm going to get you to do one more thing before we have our prize draw, because we've talked about the book, we have heard bits from the book, but I would actually really like you to read about the book so everyone knows what they're just about to come and buy.
Okay. All right. So when someone secretly signs up Belinda Houle, the school's shyest kid, to audition for a play, Belinda turns to her best friend Sally for help. Belinda doesn't believe in magic, but if Sally says she has a spell for confidence, it couldn't hurt to try, could it? What follows the spell is a series of disasters that would have been funny if they weren't happening to Belinda. Can she break the curse before the dreamy Ricky Daniels takes notice? More importantly, can Belinda battle the very thing she hoped the spell would take away, her embarrassment?
Yay. So I think she needs a round of applause right now. I'm going to invite all of you to reach underneath your chair to see if you can feel a sticker under there. If you have a sticker under your chair and you can feel it, which may be challenging, yes. You have won a prize. There should be 3. Can anyone find their sticker? Oh, yeah, they look like this. Someone's got one. Oh, you've got one. Of course you have. Dan is winning everything at the moment.
There you go. I got it. There you go.
One of the chairs has a slip of paper that says skunk on it. And that one wins stuffed skunk.
Oh, that's again. Okay, I'll go get it.
So the formal part of the evening is done, but I invite all of you to come forward and meet with our wonderful author, get your book signed, share it with the world. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for supporting books, and thank you to McNally Robinson. It's been lovely.